So I'm really excited to introduce this panel. It's the Let's Get Social panel. As you know, these are some amazing women that we have here today. So I want to start by introducing our moderator. This is Lindsay Mauch. She is the founder and chief marketing officer at LTM Digital. And then we have our amazing panelists. I'm sorry to be blocking them. We have Catherine McCord from Weelicious. We have Jeanette Ogden from Shut the Kale Up. We have Jordan Younger from The Balanced Blonde. And we have Whitney English, who is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and the founder of the YouTube channel and the site Whitney ERD. So I am going to get off stage and hand it over to them. Thank you guys again.
Let's give it up one more time for our panelists. Thank you all so much for coming today. I'm super excited to kick off our conversation. And let's just jump right in and get right to it. So the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to social media is content. Because content, as we know, is the fuel to your social media machine, right? So when it comes to creating good content, if we could kick it off with you, Catherine, what type of content resonates best with your audience?
With my audience, well, I've always said that even with Weelicious and my other company, One Potato, keeping your focus narrow, especially when you start, is really super important. Because I think that if you try to be everything to everyone, then you really never get your mission out. Like once you build your audience, it's much easier to be like, come along on this journey with me. But I think that, you know, if you're just slapping up images, they're like dark, they have no point of view. They don't have a language or like translate into who you are, because we all communicate and write and speak so differently. I think just like making sure that it's a vibrant image, something that really resonates and speaks to who you are as a creator.
Yeah, great points. And Catherine also pointed out that the light here is amazing at Hudson Loft. So
I'm like, go over to these windows. I just took
Take some
sickest
selfies.
pictures of these ladies.
Take advantage of the natural light today. So Jordan, how about you and your audience? What type of content resonates best with your audience?
It's really changed a lot over the years for me. If people here have followed me since I was the blonde vegan, which was 6 years ago, you'll know that my content has changed, that's my phone, so much. It used to be food, and I was really, really adamant about the food photos being so particular and really bright colored and just synchronistic with each other. Everything had to look a certain way. And as I started sharing more of my life, I got so much more excited to share who I am, not just the food. So the photos became kind of secondary for me. For me, I feel like the captions, that's like my content that I get super excited about. And I understand it doesn't always hook people in the same way as some kind of aesthetic image, but I think having both is important. And I feel like I've gotten to the point where with my words, I don't really care what photo I post. I know that that's probably not the most popular thing to say, but people are on social media to connect. So I want everybody here to read my words and everybody who finds me on social media. And hopefully those photos are good and fun and bright. But I think people just want to connect and have a friend on the internet. That's what I hope to be.
Yeah, that's great. And captions can be long and captions can be short, and there's a place for both when it comes to creating content. Jeanette, how about you? Your life has changed since you started Shut the Kale Up, becoming a mom. What type of content resonates with your audience?
Honestly, it changes. In the beginning, it was just like Jordan. It was all about food and creating exciting, fun, colorful things. And I kind of got bored because it got saturated, or at least in my opinion, I just kept seeing the same stuff. And then I was like, wait, is this my photo? Oh, it's not. It's someone else's. And then and I got bored, so I could only imagine how the community and others were looking at it, basically the same. And I didn't want my voice to get lost, so I started sharing more about my life, and I felt like people were excited to see that. And I enjoy it, because I think people should be open with whatever journey they're on. And because I appreciate that when I see Jordan's posts about, her going through what she's going through health-wise, like, I want to learn about someone. I want to have a different perspective, and it totally changes my mindset on different things and how I should be living. So I think it's really all around for me.
That's great. And Whitney, how about you? Your content has evolved over the years as well since you began. What type of content resonates well with your audience?
I think my audience really likes things that are realistic and attainable. So I originally set out, and still sometimes struggle, I think a lot of people do, with sharing content that's pretty and has this very, aesthetic that people are trying to attain. But when you get down to it, your audience really wants things that they can apply to their everyday life. So the content that does well for me are pictures I take on my iPhone as opposed to like the beautiful recipes that I've taken on my camera and put all this work into, or the beautiful recipe that had 20 ingredients. It's something as simple as telling someone you can mix some hummus with some lemon juice and use that as a dressing that people like really get excited about, because they want these like quick, actionable tips that are achievable for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great point. Creating content that educates and provides value. So thinking about your audience and thinking about how you can provide value to them. That's a great point. And in today's market with health and wellness, it's very crowded. How do you stand out? Like Jeanette, you were saying that you see a lot of the same photos and you're starting to get bored. How do you stand out with health and wellness in the space?
For me, I try to get creative. I don't know what that means, because it's like every day it's different for me. Every day I wake up with like a different schedule, or Elliot's mood is completely wrong and I'm like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do now, you know? So I try to make things interesting, and I do my best to do what I love, you know, not, oh, is someone gonna like this photo? Oh, is someone gonna read this? Like, no, I'm doing this for me because this is what I've created, and it's almost like a memory board for me. And I keep it very real, authentic, and I use my words to capture people, because no one has my voice and no one has, your voice. So I think by you sharing your actual life and what you're going through is just some person will gravitate to that. That's kind of how I do it.
Definitely. The unique value proposition of you, right? Definitely. And Jordan, how about you? How do you create content? I saw you doing a little story here on stage. How do you stand out in the health and wellness space?
Well, first of all, everything you said, it's so true. I think when someone just shares from the heart, whether it be, like Jeanette, I feel like I know your family. And like, I know you, and I'm so lucky, but you share. I think when you find someone who's sharing authentically, it just shines so much that it almost doesn't matter that there are hundreds of millions of other people on Instagram and social media, because when you find those people who you are having so much fun knowing about their life, that's who you want to learn more about. And like I said before, it's like you kind of become friends even if you haven't met. I feel that way with my audience. I feel like you guys know me. People come up to me, at the grocery store, on the street or something, and say, oh, this is so weird, but I feel like I know you. And I'm like, that is not weird. That is not weird. That is what I hope for. That's all I could ever ask for. So how to stand apart is just be you, because there's nobody else who's you. Nobody. We are all so gifted, whether it be photographically, aesthetically gifted. Some of us, maybe not. Maybe it's your words, or maybe it's your ability to capture a super different kind of recipe that nobody else could come up with. So just remember, just don't ever get down on yourself for feeling like, oh, there's just so many people in the space, because nobody's you.
Absolutely. Whitney, do you have anything to add to that?
To piggyback off what you're saying, being unapologetically yourself, I find that one of the things my audience, I think, really appreciates from me is that from me is that I'm not afraid to be a little bit controversial and speak up about popular practices that I don't agree with. As a dietitian and a journalist, I think it's really my place to be putting credible information out into the health and wellness space. And I do that with evidence-based practice. And some people hate it, and I get a lot of backlash from it. And some people love it, and they're like, thank you for not just riding the train on this trend and saying that it's cool because everyone else is. So I think that can apply across the space, whatever you're sharing. Make sure it's really how you feel, and it's what speaks to you.
Absolutely. Catherine, how about you?
I think that the word authenticity and authentic gets overused often these days. However, I do think that that's why we love following the people we follow and social media, because you do want to hear that unique voice, and everyone in this room in health and wellness is unique. Whether what they're cooking, their life they're leading, the illness they may be fighting, the children that they're raising. So I think that having really, being able to speak to that and sharing what you're comfortable with. And I think that's probably very different for all of us. But that's what makes it so special and fun.
Absolutely. And when it comes to creating content on Instagram, for example, Catherine, what goes into creating an Instagram post for you?
Sometimes it's literally 30 seconds. It's like those aha moments, and then I'm just like, okay, that's what it is. I mean, there's apps like Planoly. I don't know if you guys use Planoly, and you can I've seen people strategically putting it all out and what it's going to be. I mean, my life is so freaking nuts these days. I wish I could do that. It's just not that way. So there's moments in my life I'm taking pictures, whether it's professionally photographed or myself. And then it's just it's just really super this is what I'm feeling. This is what I want to talk about. This is sometimes it's just game changers in my life, whether it's feeding my kids or feeding my body. It's just things that I'm it just feels very real to that moment.
Nice. Are any of you using a content calendar? How far out are you planning your content in advance?
Gosh, I didn't even know that existed. I'm such a mom in that sense, where I'm I mean, you know what I mean? I didn't even know that you can zoom in a photo. And I'm not even joking. No. I do it out of the moment. I do it just oh, cool, I'm eating a donut, or, oh my gosh, I made, this, that, it's delicious, I'm just gonna post it. It's very unless I'm writing a heartfelt story, then I'm okay, I take a little bit of time, I reread it 50 times and make sure everyone can read it and kind of connect with it, and then I post. But yeah, I never plan anything, and it's the worst.
Spontaneous is good.
That's great.
I know,
that's your brand voice.
My husband, he manages all my back end stuff, and he's like, Jeanette, you got to get better at this calendar. And I'm I can't. I don't think I could ever do it. So we're working on it.
Work in progress. How about you, Jordan?
I'm definitely the same way. I've tried to keep a content calendar over the years. I've been doing this for 6 years. First I was in school, then I was doing this full time, and never once has planning in advance really worked for me. I've done it, I've tried it, because I've tried to instill practices that I've heard have worked for other people. It doesn't work for me, because the fun of it for me, the reason why I feel I do it and I love it and it resonates with people, is that it's just spontaneous. Like you're saying, it's spur of the moment. And yes, sometimes if I've already just posted something and something else comes to me, I'll save it and I'll post it the next day. And I can't wait to do it. And then I'll post it, but it doesn't itch that same scratch, if that makes sense. It's scratch that same itch to share something. I just love to share. And so if I've pre-written it and then post it, I'll think later that day, oh, I haven't posted anything, because it doesn't, it just fuels me to post while it happens. That said, everybody's different. So some people thrive off of structure. I'm not one of those people, not in my life, not in my business, not with social media.
How about when it comes to your podcasts or your blog posts? How are you balancing the spontaneous part of your content with promoting the other content that you're producing on other platforms?
Such a good question. The podcast has to be, it's the most structured thing I've ever done. It shocks me sometimes that I keep up with that structure, but it has come out every single Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time for 2.5 years, no matter what. So I have a team, production team, editing, audio, and they keep me on track. And sometimes it's like the day before that it comes out. And they're like, hey, we need the files, and I get them in. But usually I do that ahead of time, like at least 2 weeks ahead of time. And that has served me well. I think it's good to have some structure in some places. And with podcasting, when there's a whole other host of things involved, like audio editing and iTunes and that, it's like, no, I can't be so spontaneous. So that's why social media is such a fun outlet for things that can be spontaneous.
Absolutely. Whitney, how about you?
Very similar to all of you. My main reason for not having structure is just because I'm very disorganized and I'm always flying by the seat of my pants. I'm like, shit, I didn't post on Instagram today. What am I gonna post? So it's been on the top of my to-do list probably for the past 10 years to like get that under control. But I do think it helps to have some structure. So I will at least have, like Jordan said, I'll save things that move me. I'll keep them in my photos somewhere, or if I see a quote, I'll add it to a list for those days when I don't have anything in the moment, and I'll go to that and say, oh well, what do I have here that I could use? I think having some light structure also in your mind with like. For me, I'll do like, well, Mondays are usually a meatless Monday. So then I always know I'm gonna have a recipe to post on there. Tuesdays are when my blog post or my new YouTube video goes live. So I'm gonna be sharing something to drive people over there. So having at least somewhat of an idea of what I can post on those days at least helps keep me a little bit more regular for when I'm not doing anything cool that I wanna share, because many days I'm just like in my pajamas behind my computer and nobody needs to see that.
I think a lot of us can relate to that. How many of you in the audience are using a content calendar right now, just to get an idea, show of hands? Okay, yeah, so, yeah, very, very mixed. So there's no, whatever works for you, it sounds like, is the best way to go there. So Jordan, you touched on a team, and so that's a question that I have. As you start to grow and you create content and you start to gain traction, it's a lot for one person. So do you guys have a team set up? And what does that structure look like? So Catherine, if we could start with you and have you talk a little bit about that.
So I have a small team at Weelicious. That's just because there's the blog, there's blog content. I do a lot of video content, so it's video production. I'm writing my 3rd cookbook right now. So
congratulations.
Very excited. So we're photographing that for the next few weeks. So there's that. But again, when it goes back to Instagram, weirdly enough, like I am like a hoarder because that's the way I communicate with people. And there's such specific questions that get asked that I don't know. I couldn't, like, it would take me more time, and believe me, I've thought about this, more time to tell someone else, like, this is the answer. Like, and it's your authentic voice. And then my other company is One Potato. It's an organic family-friendly food company. And we have like 40 employees. But that's like a big beast.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Whitney, how about you? How about your team setup? I saw you post some behind the scenes from some video shoots the other day.
I outsource certain things. I tried for a period of time to hire a social media assistant, and like Catherine was just saying, they can't really capture your voice. And then I found myself constantly just going back through and reading what she was saying to other people and being like, wait, that doesn't sound like something I would say. So that's gone out the window. I manage my own Instagram now. I did just hire someone to do Pinterest. Pinterest is really, really helpful if you have other content platforms like a blog or YouTube for driving traffic back. And then I do use a videographer who shoots and edits my videos. That was something from the beginning that I used to do everything. I mean, I write the scripts, shoot it myself, edit the video on iMovie. Not very well, but I did it. And then you just get to a point where you realize you can't produce a certain amount of content on your own if you're trying to do everything. So I'm sure you've heard the tip before, but outsource things that you couldn't do yourself, the things that only you could do, like writing a great Instagram post or things that are your voice, are things that you should not try to outsource.
Yeah, absolutely, because there are a lot of different skills that go into social media. On the creative side, being able to take photographs, doing video editing, writing great copy. Like, it's hard to have all those skill sets. Do you all feel like you have all those skill sets? No. I wish I did. So know your strengths and know what your weaknesses are. Not necessarily weaknesses, but what you want to outsource that helps you maintain that authentic voice. Absolutely. Jeanette, how about you with your team setup?
I don't have a team. It's just me. AJ does all of my managing part, back end stuff, but I literally do everything. And it's very difficult because I'm also a stay-at-home mom, or that's what my job is for me. When anyone asks, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I also have this Instagram. I never say that, but when they say, well, that's it, and I'm like, well, I kind of have this Instagram, and it's
just
it's fun.
Instagram.
It's fun, but it is
You better
such
shut them down when they say that's it.
it's a lot of work, and the amount of DMs I get, I am just so flattered that people even think to take the time to message me, because it does take time to be like, hey Jeanette, thanks for this or whatever. I appreciate it, but I cannot get myself to respond to all of them, and it makes me feel so sad. But I wouldn't have a life, and I want my boy to grow up knowing that I'm looking at him and not my phone all the time. If I'm out with friends, if I'm out with family, because I'm very I love being around people. I want to make sure that I'm always there, and I'm not oh, hold on. Hey, you guys, I need to respond. No, I have a life. So I try my best to respond to everyone in my highlights and say thank you or give them a heart or respond with one-worded answers, even though it sounds so bitchy, I guess I would say, because sometimes I'm well, that was not that nice. I wish I would have gotten a longer message, but I just want people to know that I do see and I do look sometimes and I do care, because you guys are what made me have this platform, have this voice. So I try my best, and I would not want anyone to look at the messages, because some people pour their hearts out. But we are looking for help. I'm relaunching my blog this year. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And we're doing some meetings here and there next week. So maybe I'll have a team this year. I don't know.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited.
great. Congratulations. Jordan, how about you?
Well, yeah, it's been the question of the century to as a blogger, where your platform is you, the Balanced Blonde is me. And I know that's different for some blogs. It's not so much like that, but mine is. And it's been really interesting over the years to try to figure out how to help, because support is necessary. And like you said, know your strengths. I can't do everything. Funny story is when I tried to edit my own podcast for my first 5 episodes, and someone emailed me, thank God, Cody, my now audio engineer, and said, I was listening to your podcast. My wife was listening to it in the car. Sounds like you could use some audio help. And I'm yeah, I don't know how to use GarageBand. It took me 18 hours to try to edit 1 episode. Nobody has that kind of time. I have other stuff to do. So of course I got a podcast team. And I have incredible people to call when I need a professional photographer, professional videographer. I don't consider myself any of those things, but I don't really have a full-time team. I've had assistants, I've had interns, and it's been cool to learn what works for me. Just as a person, I just become friends with these people. So then it's I'm not that professional. I need some distance. So it's still a question. It's kind of like you're saying. I still try to figure it out. And I've been taking some time off for my health for the last 2 months. So this is like the first public thing I've even done. So it's cool, it's special to all be here together. And with this time off, a huge thing that I realized was a team would be nice. And everything is energy. Everything is energy. So where I convinced myself I can answer every email, I can do all of this myself. Now that I haven't been doing it for 2 months, I realize, no, everything is energy, and that took so much from me. So those hours, I wasn't blogging, I wasn't podcasting, I wasn't doing interesting things, I was just responding to emails. So I realized, okay, I could get some help, and I'm thinking about it. So yeah, I mean, that's just the journey. It's a journey. Like, you just realize what works for you.
Definitely.
And I'm just
Can I
going
add some?
Go.
I was just going to say, for people who can't afford to have a team, or you're not at that place yet, a tip that I've learned recently is just to really condense your time with when you're focusing on something. So if you're doing emails, you pick one time of the day or 2 times of the day that you're going to do it 30 minutes, and you don't look at email the rest of the time. It's so hard when it's on your phone. And same with social media, with responding to all these direct messages. I only look at them once a day at the end of the day, and I'll respond to as many as I can then. But I'm not going through there all day long. As tempting as it can be, you're just not gonna live your life that way, and you won't have time to focus on actually creating good content.
And I was going to even throw out that 10 years ago when I started, like when I launched my YouTube channel and started doing a lot of video content, I was making my own videos too. And so I went to the Apple store where you could pay $99 a year and you get 1 session a month. And I was like trying to learn how to do it. And the guy was like, I really like your videos. You know, I'm a director. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I could do it for you. I was like, you're hired. And we still work together 10 years later. He's like the gangster, sweet guy. He still works at Apple because he has his insurance. Nice. And then, you know what I mean? Like but I think that it's like go to your local, like Los Angeles film schools, just anywhere, because you're interesting, your content's interesting, what you want to create's interesting, and I guarantee there's someone out there that just wants the opportunity to like help you build your brand.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And to your point too, Whitney, about email, one thing that we do is email power hour. Like, just do all your emails in 1 hour, engagement power hour, and that really helps segment things, because otherwise it could become very, very overwhelming. Let's move into audience development and engagement. So, how many of you know what's going on with Instagram?
What do you mean?
The algorithm. Dun, dun, dun.
Anyone understands the algorithm.
You're hiding your content.
Yes, you guys seen the post this week, the rumor that Instagram was limiting reach. Oh. So Instagram came out and said that it is a rumor, but it's changing, right? The audience that you started 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, it's changing, and your audience develops and grows, and you change over time. But it's not just about creating content. The next step is engaging with the content and engaging with your audience. So what are some of the ways that you engage with your audience, Catherine?
All the time. I mean, on Instagram specifically?
Any platform.
Oh, wow. Well, Instagram, it's that Insta messages and the comments under a post. And I like really, I memorize people's names. If you're constantly posting or commenting, I'm really in there with you. I do giveaways once in a while if it's something that I've been loving and I want my audience to have the opportunity to enjoy also. And then with One Potato, it's always just like customer service, or that we're creating video. I think just like all of it. I don't know, all of it is engagement to me.
Are you looking at any specific analytics or tools when it comes to creating content to understand this type of content performs well for my audience, and this is what they like to see from me? Jeanette, are you looking at anything? Instagram insights?
I don't, because everything, it's constantly changing, and I find it to be with the algorithm. I've never complained about it, because it's like, it's a challenge. If Instagram's gonna challenge me in that sense, I wanna make sure that I'm bringing it with better content, with more of, sharing my life, sharing things that people want to hear. I also take Instagram very much like you guys are my friends and I'm just texting you, or I'm just sharing like what happened. Because I don't care about the likes or the numbers. What I care about is, am I reaching you guys in the sense that, are you guys commenting? Are you guys messaging me about this certain thing? Even if it's one person, even if someone tells me like, thank you so much for that post, that's why I do what I do. It's a little different for me, I guess, because it is a business, but I also find it to be like, you guys are my friends and I'm just responding, and I try my best to comment back. As soon as I post something, I'm commenting, but then Elliot will be like, Mom, let's play, or something, and I get distracted and I leave my phone, but I always try my best to respond to questions, to respond to DMs, as many as I can. Last week I responded to 600 DMs. And
wow.
And my thing does not go down from 99 plus, but it's such a pleasure to be able to say thank you, or hey, this is what I do, this is what I use. I think it keeps your community thinking like, oh, Jeanette is a friend. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go to her feed and watch her feed or stories. I feel like I connect so much more through stories because you guys are able to see my face. You guys are able to see how I'm talking, if I'm being authentic. Everyone uses that word. But if I'm being real or not. What you see is literally what you get. So anyone who comes up to me and says, I feel like I know you, it's so sweet because I'm like, yeah, you totally do.
Like I said to you earlier.
Yeah. And you in the back. But it's just really special, and connecting with, even if it's one person, again, that's all I care about.
That's great. It means so much to everyone when you respond. I know that.
Yeah, hard.
I've seen people respond and say how much it means to them.
Yeah.
Whitney, how about you? How do you build engagement on Instagram?
The things that drive the most engagement on my platforms are typically, again, like I said, I think things that are controversial or that are trending or that people are really interested in and talking about. So I build engagement by sharing information on things that I'm personally interested in and that I see my audience talking about. And I judge whether something is beneficial to my audience and whether it's producing the engagement that I want by how many people ask questions about it. That really shows that people are interested, as opposed to just comments like, that looks awesome, or super cool, or something like that. I get really hyped up when people will follow up with like 3 questions. They want to learn more. That's how I know that something is resonating with my audience. Something that you can look for in the actual insights to see that it's really beneficial or people care about it is looking at now people can share your post, but also if people are saving it, that shows that they really resonated with it. They want to save it and come back to it for later. So I kind of look at that and I go, oh, people really liked this infographic that I made. I'm gonna do a follow-up on that one, or I'm gonna make more along these lines.
Yeah, that's a great point. For recipes too, if you see someone saves a recipe or any type of content, you know that it's resonating well with your audience. So I want to be mindful of time so that we have enough time for questions. So let's do a final speed round question here. And I'll have every panelist answer this question. What is your top tactical tip to grow your following?
Go.
Okay.
Okay. Want to take it
Similar to what I've been saying, I think add value. So something I encourage people to do is every time you're about to post something, say, how is this going to benefit my audience? Am I giving them a recipe, an easy recipe? Am I giving them a kitchen hack? If I'm an expert on a subject, am I educating on that? Do more than just provide fluff. Like, that's good in some capacity. Instagram is out there for us to share pretty pictures and people love that, but you're content creators, you're here to make a business out of blogging, and people want to get something, learn something from you. So add value. And one of the things that I use is PicMonkey or Canva. Those are both really great for creating infographics like I was talking about, and for me, those have done really well on my channel.
Thanks. Jordan?
Mine would be engage with your audience. So, yeah, I mean, to answer that question super briefly, the one before, because I was just thinking like, oh, I have so much to say. The insights thing is really cool. So you can check and see how many people have saved. My niece showed me this over Christmas. She's like, how many people save your posts? And so I looked and learned what people were interested in, and engaging with audience is just huge to me. I try to respond as much as I can, and I like to respond to every comment, which is like, I'm pretty OCD, so I actually do that. Not everybody has to do that, but for me, it works because I do believe people come to you because they, like I said, like we are friends. So if I don't ever answer you and you ask me multiple questions, you're gonna get annoyed, and I would be annoyed too if I'm the type of person who answers questions. So engage with your audience, never forget where you came from, pay attention to the people who are engaged and are listening, not to the people who aren't. So whatever about the algorithm, like if there are a couple hundred, couple thousand, etc., people engaging with you, just think about them because they're there. So that's my tip.
Great, thank you. Jeanette?
Post what you're excited about. Who cares what other people think? Who cares what the trend is, or what the hot topic is? Like don't ever think that your voice or what you're going through currently isn't enough. That you have to share something else. And also be relatable. You're their friend and they want to hear what you have to say. So if you want to write something about your dog or about your baby or about your day, or you spilled coffee on yourself that day, like just share what you think you want to share, and people will relate and respond.
Great, thank you.
This may not be popular, but don't post. So if you're having one of those days and you just can't figure out what to post, and you're literally just like, I just can't, if it's not coming to you, the words, the picture, whatever, don't post, because it's better at the end of the day. You're gonna, your numbers are gonna be down, you're gonna be bummed out. It's like, I think it's good to give yourself a break and detox from it sometimes too, and be like, I'm not gonna do it today, and I'm just gonna go, because those probably will be the best days.
Quality over quantity. Great tip. Well, thank you all so much. I feel like we could have talked for so much longer about all these topics.
Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys.
And I'd love to open it up to Q&A. Right here.
I guess my big question for social media, thank you, is I'm a holistic nutritionist and I'm trying to share information, but at the same time be real about the information that I'm sharing and being real about what it is that I'm posting, and trying to talk to people like I'm their friend, but also sort of like I have some credibility as well. How do you find that balance?
Can I take that? Oh, we go. Do you want to? This is just like off of the top of my. I would make a list of like 30. I know that seems big. Make a list of 30 things that you feel are valuable information, pieces of information that you could share with your audience. Start taking pictures, write them. I mean, that goes a little bit to planning ahead, but then use stories as your authentic voice, as your connection. Because I think that my favorite accounts are like where I'm learning, like really learning, but then I'm like, well, wait a minute, who's the face behind the learning? And then I can go to stories and be like, oh wow, it's just like a lovely marriage of of person and content. Does that make sense?
You can also do like every other photo. This is what I like to do because there's such a range of topics that I get excited to share about. I want to teach people what I've learned, but I also just want to be their friend, kind of like you're saying, just this is my life. This is what I've learned about food that's really interesting. This is my life. This is what I'm here to teach you. And it's every other photo, so it's always integrated. And then it kind of gives you like some guidelines to follow too. A photo of you, a photo of food, a photo of your life, a photo about what you have to teach everyone. That's what I like to do.
That's great. Question?
So my question has to do with balancing, balancing being authentic and real, but I also have a little one and she's in some of my posts because, I'm also a stay-at-home mom. How do you guys balance that when you're, putting your kids on this platform, and sometimes it can just be a little, I don't know. How do you guys deal with that?
Who wants
That's
to
a
take this
hard one for me sometimes, because it's like you open the door for people to like judge how you're parenting or whatever, and that to me is tough. It is very hard as a mom to be like, I'm just going to put my family out there. And for the longest time I didn't. But then I realized, no, this is our life and we're just sharing it. And no one dictates how we should or shouldn't live, because at the end of the day, they're not paying you to pay your rent, pay this or pay that. Like, you are doing that. You're doing the best. You have to always make sure that I'm the parent. I know what's best for my kid. I know what's best for my family. And sure, there's going to be people that will say, negative things or positive things, but you'll always inspire that one person that really needs it. And for me, I think that's more important than to just shut it out. And you could always shut out the noise, and look the other way, maybe delete the little hate if you do get it, I
mean, I started Weelicious 11 years ago, and it was like just to inspire people to cook and eat, and there was no Instagram. There wasn't, this was like Facebook was kind of around, you know what I mean? It's like, it was mommy blogs. And I started it with my son, and now he's gonna be 12 next month. And so it is really exactly like my husband does not want to be any part of social media. It's just like and now that my kids are older, I ask them, I'm like, how do you feel about this? So I do think, it's easier when they're like little and it's part of your life, but then they're like, my son now goes to school, and luckily it's family food. It's not, I'm not sharing like too deeply what's happening, but still, it's a very, I do feel like it's a fine line, and you'll hit that point where you have to respect them at a certain age. But I think it's a nice family conversation, and they're growing up in this.
And you find the balance.
I'm just learning. My son's 8 months right now, and I have another platform that's more geared towards kids, Plant-Based Juniors, and I just shared about using prunes for constipation, and it kind of crossed my mind that one day he might not be so excited that I was talking about his constipation. So going forward, I think the question is just ask yourself, one, is this something you think your child might ever feel uncomfortable about one day? And I was just talking with another blogger about this. Depending on where you're at in your career, if you're doing brand partnerships, your kids might start to get involved in those. So potentially even talking about writing into the contracts that the photographs that are taken of your children only have a certain lifespan, so that when their child is old enough to make the decision, they can decide if they want their image out there.
That's great. All right, we have time for one more question. So over here, I saw your hand up.
Yep. I can probably just stand.
Sure.
I don't think I need a mic. Okay, whatever. I was
can
just
have a
gonna
mic.
shout. Thanks. So I wrote it down so I didn't forget. Do you think, I'm starting out as a holistic health coach, but do you think, I was told you should really hone in on a specific niche, and all your posts across all social media platforms should focus on that? And so I'm just wondering, do you agree with that? Do you not, especially when you're new and you're trying to build an audience? And then should you also just focus on creating content for one platform from the beginning? Or I feel like you have to do YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and I'm so overwhelmed and exhausted.
You definitely don't have to do all those platforms. I think you should focus on the platforms that excite you and don't make you feel overwhelmed. Maybe more than one, just so that when you're ready to expand, it's not a whole new Wild West again. You have some people going over there, like an Instagram and a blog, or an Instagram and a YouTube, only if you like videos. But then as far as the niche topic thing, I know I always hear people saying that, and I think it just depends. Do you want to talk about that one topic forever? Because if you do, awesome,
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
In some of my personal life, I did work with a really well-known branding coach, and I did her program, and she called me. She was like, "You're off brand."
No, you're the only person who knows your brand.
Stop sharing anything personal.
No, I don't agree. I started super niche with a vegan blog, and it took me 3 weeks to decide I can't wait to talk about yoga and my life, and I want people to know me. And maybe if I had stuck to only talking about vegan food and never posting my face, maybe I would have a totally different brand, and maybe it would be more successful, maybe. But I don't think I would be so happy or fulfilled, and I would have to start a whole side business to do something else that fulfilled me. So I guess it depends on your goals, but I think it's very possible to start a brand and have a few niche topics. You have your one, but then everything's, wellness is everything. It's food, it's beauty, it's lifestyle, it's self-care. Who do you surround yourself with? How's your sleep? I think that's wellness. So wellness is a big pool of things to draw from.
You are your own boss.
Love it. And on that note, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to our lovely panelists.
Thank you guys so much. That was amazing.